I want to read 100 books in 2026, and today I'm going to be sharing the 26 books that I'm most excited to read this year. So let's just get right into it. Hi, my name is Nora. I'm 20 years old and I love to read, but I'm not so consistent with posting on YouTube. So this is me getting into posting on YouTube again. And other than doing all of my hobbies, I spend most of my time studying psychology here in my hometown in Aarhus. Anyways, let's get into some of the books that I really want to read this year. Starting off with romance books. I love me a good rom-com chick flick in a book form, okay? That is what I crave in a romance book. I really want that cute montage where they change their whole life, the breakup that leads them to change their whole life, the girlfriends, the character growth, the witty jokes, like everything that you could possibly want in a really good rom-com movie. You also want that in a book, okay? So that is what I always search for whenever I am going to be reading a rom-com. And I really found some really good romance book last year that really fit that description. So I'm really excited and I really hope that these books that I've picked out is going to do the same. First book that I have on here that I am really excited to read is Champagne Problems by Hannah Grace. The thing is, we don't know much about this book yet because it's going to be released in the fall of 2026. But we do know it's going to be a Formula One kind of romance. Hannah Grace is also a Formula One lover, like fan. So it fits her really nicely that she's going to be writing a romance novel with that setting. And you probably know her by her very famous book Icebreaker. I ate that shit up, okay? I ate that shit up, okay? Left no crumbs, because that book was such a good book. Like, I don't get what people are saying that is like so childish, not a lot of character growth. Guys, if you read the book, you would see that there are plenty of character growth and it's actually really realistic for the person to go through those changes and go through that kind of complex relationship with, I can't spoil, but they go through a really complicated relationship. I think that is really realistic. I don't think all the main characters are super realistic, but it's also a really fun, really good, really good like chick flick rom-com. And I want Champagne Problems to do exactly the same. So I'm going to be reading every single book that Hannah Grace puts out there, which also means I'm going to be reading Champagne Problems. Thank you very much. Next book is again a book that we don't know a lot about, which is the book Just Friends by Haley Pham. You probably know Haley Pham here on YouTube. She is like one of the biggest booktubers on here, I guess. And I really like her YouTube videos. I've been watching for a long time now, so I'm also really excited to be reading her book this March. Again, we don't know much about this book other than it's a childhood friends reunited, become lovers, something like that. Really cute cover. I'm really excited to be reading her books, even though I think it's going to be in somewhat of the same style as Emily Henry books, and I don't particularly love Emily Henry books. Don't tell anybody that because I will get shamed. That is also a book that I'm really excited to be reading this year. We are continuing with the hockey sports romance books because I also really want to read Mile High by Liz Tomford. This book is about a very cocky, very big ego hockey player who meets this stewardess who is on the hockey player's plane, and they fall in love up high, mile high. We get the gist, and yeah, I think it's also a little bit of a complicated relationship there. I can definitely think of some issues. I also think there's a little bit of spice in that book. I definitely think there's spice in that book, actually, and I'm excited. I'm really excited to be reading that too. We have another hockey athlete, a book, Collide, by Belle. I'm not sure how to pronounce her name. Again, it's another hockey athlete book. I guess I have a type. I'm sorry, okay? I guess I have a type. I'm sorry. The thing that is really intriguing me about this book is that the female main character is somebody who is really smart, really, big brain. And she needs to help out the hockey player. Somehow they make a deal, they study together, whatever, and they probably end up falling in love, okay? We know the story, but again, I am expecting witty jokes, I'm expecting comedian, I'm expecting character growth, because I know for a fact the smart girl is also going to be having some issues, maybe some perfectionism issues, maybe, and she's going to get through them with this guy by her side, okay? And I'm here for it. Next romance book that I have on here is The Deal. I actually have this on hand. The Deal by Elle Kennedy. As we can see, we have a hockey book. No, wait, is this a hockey book? Somebody who wants to play professional hockey after graduation, but his plummeting GPA is threatening everything he's worked so hard for, so he needs this girl to help him out. The Deal it's actually a really big series, and I have been kind of wanting to find series that feel like found family, rom-com, you know, college life especially, because I feel like right now as I'm in university, I feel like I can kind of relate to a lot of the college things that the authors tend to write about, and I couldn't do that before, but now I can actually, you know, I actually live the college/university life while I also read about other people's experience. I feel like that's pretty cool. That's pretty fun to do. Last book on my rom-com list is also a Hannah Grace book. It's called Holiday Ever After, and I was actually planning to read this December, but I just had so much exam stress that I didn't get to do it. So that is why it's on here, because I really want to do that this December, like this year. Love me a good Hannah Grace book. I need to read all of them, but I also think for the sake of this book, I don't want to read it in the spring. Like I want to get the full feeling, the full gist of actually reading it while it's like snowing outside. That is what I like picture when I picture myself reading this book. So I'm going to do that this year too. Okay, next segment of books are thrillers/mystery books. And that is because I have read my fair share of thrillers and mystery books, especially in 2025. I really feel like I discovered like this genre, and I haven't been able to let it go since, okay? I have really fallen in love with this genre ever since I read A Good Girl's Guide to Murder like 3 years ago. And recently I've also discovered Frida McFadden books. And I know a lot of people say they sound like ChatGPT. It might not be the most deep literary piece of fiction ever, but they got me hooked, okay? They get me out of my reading slump every single time, and I really like when I get into her books, I can read like one of her books in maybe like 4 hours tops, you know? I'm like so invested, I'm so into it, and then I'm done, okay? And then I go and live my life. And that's what I need in a book sometimes, you know? That is what I really need in a book sometimes, that I can just pick it up, be in like this little other world for a couple of hours, and then go back to my own life, okay? I don't want every single book to be like gut-wrenching, like I have my heart, soul, and mind into this book. No, I don't need that every single time, especially because I also want to live my own life. So I like that we can have a little bit of thriller, a little bit of mystery, a little bit of Frida McFadden here and there. Now I am just yapping. Let's get into the books that I'm actually going to read this year. The first book is The Long Walk by Stephen King. I really want to get more into Stephen King and his books, because they were classics, especially after I watched Running Man with my boyfriend last year. We watched it, and it's obviously based on a Stephen King novel. So that is why I really want to read The Long Walk, because that's also a movie, so I can like read the book and then watch the movie. I watched the trailer for the movie and it looks really intriguing, so I'm really excited to be reading the book. Okay, then we have a book that I just like saw on Goodreads and it really intrigued me. It's called Kill for Me, Kill for You by Steve Kavanagh. It's basically just a book about these two girls who make a deal that they are going to kill and get like revenge for the other person. It kind of reminds me of that one episode in Modern Family where Mitch and Claire, they choose to tell each other's husbands something that they don't want to tell themselves. That's a good episode, and I'm really excited to be reading a book that is kind of like that, just with murders. Anyways, next one is called Not Quite Dead by Holly Jackson. The overall premise of this book is that the main character is going to die in like a couple of days, and they have the last bit of time before they die to figure out who killed them. Hence the title. I love Holly Jackson's books. I read Five Survive a couple of years ago, and again, also a really good book. And I like her plot twists at the end, and how a lot of the time the ending is not perfect, the ending is not full-on ending. I quite like that, okay? And I'm excited to be reading this book. I've been seeing it in bookstores for a long time now, so I'm really excited to be actually reading it. The next book is Listen for the Lie by Amy Tintera. This book is about a girl who has to listen to like the worst thing that has ever happened in her life by a podcaster, and this podcaster is like trying to solve the mystery, and she's listening to it, and at the same time they're talking about it, and I think they're kind of like figuring out what happened at the end together. Next book. This title by Stephen King. I don't know how to pronounce that in English, I'm so sorry. It's about time travel, what happened with JFK. Really excited. I don't know much about it other than it's a classic, and a lot of people who doesn't really usually read Stephen King likes this book, so I think that I'm also going to like this book. Next one. The Tenant by Freida McFadden. We needed to have a Freida McFadden book in here. The Tenant is basically just about a person whose roommate is crazy and they don't know why, okay? But they need to have a roommate because they can't pay rent without a roommate. So there we go. Next up is a book that I've actually tried to read last year, but I listened to the audiobook and I couldn't get through it, so I'm going to be reading it instead. It's called Julie Chan is Dead by Lian Zhang. The book is basically about two twin sisters where one is living a miserable life and the other is living a really good life because they got like adopted separately, and the twin who's living a really good life dies, so the other twin just takes over her life, and the good twin, or the like stable twin, was an influencer, so now the other twin has to like kind of act as if she is the original person. I don't know how this can be like a thriller. I'm really excited for reading the thriller elements because I read like maybe 1/3 of the book last time and I didn't really see that many thriller elements, so I'm really excited to be reading it and discovering what actually happened to the original sister. The last book that I have in this genre is First Light Wins by Ashley Elton. This book is about this perfect Southern girl who has everything she could ever ask for, but the thing is, she doesn't exist, and that's the twist. Okay, next genre we have is fantasy and sci-fi. I normally don't really read too many fantasy and sci-fi books right now, mainly because I've kind of fallen out of the genre. I think fantasy books, it's a lot to get into, and with my kind of a little bit busy life, I don't really find it easy to get into such a hard book. But I do have a couple. The first one is Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. I really want to read this book because it is getting turned into a movie with Ryan Gosling this year, and my boyfriend has actually read it, really liked it, so I'm going to be reading this so we can watch it in the movie together. That's going to be really fun. Next up is Onyx Storm by Rebecca Jarvis. If you know, you know. It's the third book in the Fourth Wing series. I haven't read that, but I really like Fourth Wing. It's actually one of my favorite books ever. My boyfriend got me like a book stamp for Christmas. I like stamped this one with a golden one because it's one of my favorites. Can you see that? So pretty. Anyways, next up we have Sunrise Under Reaping by Suzanne Collins. Again, this is another book that I have on here because the movie is coming out this year. I read the Hunger Games books like a million ages ago, but I think I'm just going to rewatch the movies, read Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and then also read Sunrise Under Reaping, and then watch the movie. I actually also think that my boyfriend is going to be reading this with me, so it's going to be a really fun like little reading experience for the both of us. Next up is Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. This is a book that I have on here because a lot of people have been talking about it. A lot of people says it's their favorite book. It's their favorite kind of like yearning romance fantasy book, so I'm really excited because I also think that the world that it's in kind of sounds like really interesting. I don't know what it's about. I've just seen a lot of people read it, so I'm kind of going into it blind, and that's okay. Next kind of genre for books that I have on here is a mix, okay? It's kind of like the drawer that you have where you just put everything in, close it, and don't look at it ever again. That is what this next segment is. The first book that I have on the mix segment is On Writing by Stephen King. This book is just about how he writes and what he finds interesting about writing and how it's like such a great art form. The next book that I have on here is The Twilight Saga by Stephanie Meyer. I have this book on here and this like series of books on here because I am purely reading this because I want to finish and complete some of my physical TBR. This has been on my physical TBR for I want to say 7 years. 7 years I have had this on my shelf and I have not read it. I think it's a book that like every single person has read. I would have probably loved this when I was like in middle school. I'm going to be reading it, it's going to be fine, and then I'm going to be watching the movie after, because spoiler alert, I haven't watched the fucking movies. I'm going to be reading the books, watch the movies, maybe make a review and video about it. Next up we have The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. I have heard so many things about this, and last year I was in Paris with my mom. It's set in Paris, so I really want to read a book where I can kind of like relive that experience just through a book. Next up we have again another book that is purely on here because I really want to finish my physical TBR, The Powerless Trilogy by Lauren Roberts. I currently own Powerless, Reckless and Powerful, so I still need the last book, but I really want to complete that series. I didn't love this one. Like, I think I gave it maybe 3 stars, maybe, because I thought that it was kind of too much of the same formula, just again and again and again, multiple times in the book. Like, they were having a fight, a mission, not a mission. They were doing like a fight, a kind of like Hunger Games mission-ish thing, going dancing in a ballroom in the castle in the center of the kingdom. Mission, ballroom, mission. It was just the same thing over and over and over again in the book. There wasn't anything like particularly new, I think, for that like formula. So I didn't really love this one. I hope that I'm going to be liking the second book better, and then hopefully also ending series. Oh, next one is also a book that I have on here, but I really like the author. It's The Life Impossible by Matt Haig. I love Matt Haig's books. I loved The Midnight Library by him. I also really like The Humans by him. He makes books that really makes you think about your life, about life in general. It gives you kind of like a more optimistic view of life, and you really think about the fact that you're able, you have a roof over your head, you are not going to die like right now, and you should be thankful for that. That is what his books kind of give me the vibe of. The Life Impossible is about a woman who doesn't really have a lot going on in her life, doesn't really do a lot in her life. Her husband died, and one of her friends from a long time ago gives her a house on an island that is like magical in some sort of way in Ibiza. And she decides, because she doesn't really have a lot going on in her life, to visit this island and visit this house that she now owns. The last book that I have on here is Reursion by Blake Crouch. This book, I think it's about time travel. It's about this mystery disease that is spreading, that is like causing people to not let the truth out, basically. And there's this policeman that we follow who is viewing this mysterious illness going around, and he's like, okay, what is happening? Why can nobody tell me the truth? That's how much I know about it. I think it's a mindfuck. Honestly, I think it's a mindfuck that you really have to think about. It's really a good book that you can sit down with and be like, what the fuck just happened? I think that is what this book is all about, and I'm excited. I'm excited for that to happen. Again, in between the mindless reading, kind of like doom scrolling reading, and the spies and the thrillers and the mysteries and the fantasies, I need a good little like turning your head upside down moment. Okay, anyways, you guys, that was all the books that I am really excited to be reading this year. I am so excited to be reading in general this year. If you've made it to the end of this video, hopefully you want to see more, because I am going to post more and I'm really excited about that. That was the 26th book that I'm really excited to be reading. I really hope that you guys got a little bit of inspiration from here, and I love you guys so much. Take care of yourself until the next time. Bye!